live? I might be live. I don't know. I tried it twice and nothing happened. Coming to you live, supposedly from a doctor's office in El Monte, right? Okay, so if there's no glitches or further ado, and based on the weather reports, I have no idea if there shall be a week 8 or not, because the temperature is supposed to completely spike from where we are right now. Don't know what to predict, don't know what to tell you. Obviously this won't be a very super long episode. If you're interested in the original list and all that, I had it queued up and then I had to redo everything to restart this broadcast. Where did it go? Chapter 328 was the begin. So most people didn't watch the second half, or some people watched the second. I don't know. If you're interested in the boots that were supposed to be featured, it was the second half of that one from a month ago, slightly over a month ago, but YouTube doesn't know how to count, so whatever. Oh, my 5 viewers went away already. Okay, well, that's always whatever. Par for the course. What happened here? Don't know. Okay, anyway, so I don't really have a lot of notes. Usually I do like a boot talk thing in the off week, and this week I didn't bother to do a boot talk video. I did have a little bit of interaction with a guy from a video comment that I made 3 years ago talking about Nick's fire boots, but not the Builder Pro model, so not a model I'm really familiar with, but I had said I was having a kind of a feud with the marketing department there, and I still don't know exactly what they're trying to do half the time. But I said, I was kind of joking. It only took you 60 years to figure out that water immersion is bad for boots. Like, I don't even work for a boot company, and I sort of guessed that or something. Good thing I live in a desert. Actually, I might have had help back in the 80s learning why jungle boots had nylon uppers or whatever. I guess I shouldn't give myself all the credit, except I wasn't running a boot company around the same time as some jungle war shoe developments were taking place. Sigh. Right, okay. So then out of nowhere, a couple days ago, Will comes in and says, nylon upper boots are a catch-22 situation. While water does not rot them, they offer zero fire protection. I certainly would not want to be wearing them in a situation where I was actually using my boots to stop flames spreading, LOL. Yeah, so I replied, I was not implying that nylon was any sort of fire situation substitute for the leather, just that their research and development seems a bit behind the times. The other guy's vids more recently repeatedly groaning about how they no longer offer the McKay lock stitch internally now to keep out water, supposedly more in the midsole area. But I don't know how that would affect leather versus rubber construction overall either, because they were talking about this particular model of boot wasn't the same as the Builder Pro, and it had something going on in here where there was less midsole or more midsole in the one option you could order. But most people didn't want that. Most people wanted the regular ones because most people weren't fighting fires or worried about resoling rubber or something. I don't know. It was like only a 3-minute video, so it really didn't answer a lot of the questions I might have had if I was actually fighting fires or interested in those boots. But I guess if you were, then you would call in and figure that out. I still meet guys who tell me they wore their Thorogoods wet for a day, and that did the trick for stretching them in for proper fit, with the more narrow toes. But this seems to be largely luck of the draw than best practice, and likely would not want those boots. I misspelled would. Would not want those boots for heavy duty use anyway, even if no firefighting involved, etc. Also, Does not help that he does not tell us what other companies were those other boots mentioned in the videos. In the video, a happy customer came in to get a replacement of, again, not the Builder Pros, but a different model. And they said they looked so destroyed in only a short amount of time. And he said, yeah, but you should see the boots on the other guys. Ha, ha, ha. But again, they did not tell us what other companies were those other boots or how they got on a fire line in substandard rating footwear, etc. So I didn't end up wearing the Builder Pros or the Thorogoods in the last 2 weeks. So cut to the chase. So this guy, I expected to come at me with another comment, and he did not. But here's my answer for those of you who have tuned in and are still watching at this point. Unless NEIGH's boots have some magical property, water repellency leather, then we're just back to luck of the draw in these instances versus those other companies. If the customers or the other firefighters are wearing Carolina or Georgia loggers or even Red Wing loggers, then the leather will not be as thick off the get-go for starters, or at least compared to the Builder Pro that I know of. But if they're wearing the less expensive whites HATHORNE or Patriot or JK brands, then how that leather is much different from NEIGH's, I don't exactly know. I mean, this might be a little thinner, because it's not the $700 whites models or whatever. Don't know. Let's see. This would be useful information for NEIGH to provide in the video instead of me. Again, 3 years later. That's why I always had problems with their marketing. So I'm waiting for the other guy to buy the NEIGH boots and do his videos telling me why the savings is just not really there compared to the other 3 brands he recommends more, including whites, etc. And he does not recommend JK boots by and large either. Then there was another video I just watched about starter shoes if you just got out of college. The 3 basic shoes you should have: black formal, brown boots, and brown hybrid casual shoes. I agree with the other guy about getting the more formal black style, the Oxford versus the Derby, and the more casual version in brown if you were going to do that. And I'm also less crazy about the hybrid styles overall. No, I don't wear black shoes very often either, including last week. I did wear the black wingtip boots, but since they're not part of the challenge, I'm not showing them again in this video because I don't wear them that often anyway. But they're basically comparable quality to Thursday or Johnson & Murphy. But I found that J&M were about the only affordable brand that came in my size. Again, these are not actually J&M, but they might as well be. I seldom wear sneakers very much anymore, although back for today's episode. As likely as also mentioned in the past previously, just pretty much don't get, if you're going to buy shoes for your starter shoes, pretty much don't get any of those fake leather ones from Payless, unless you only plan to wear them like once at graduation or whatever. I had to go to traffic court one time and they lasted fine for that, but since they had been sitting in the closet for a while, the sole came off on my way back to the car already. I didn't actually buy those, though. I got them from my cousin when he outgrew them. And any labor job, don't wear hiking boots instead of real work boots. Usually they'll have even worse terrible arch support than regular boots for starters. Of course, I didn't wear any work boots this episode, so this is like the closest thing to that we're going to see. These are technically not work boots, but I guess they sort of might as well be, but I was inclined to consider them more like a contemporary version of a traditional hiking boot still. So, but they do have a shank, unlike some of the hiking boots like Nevados and whatnot. I stopped putting shoe trees in the Thursday boots because it seemed to press down the foam insoles too much and smash them prematurely. So these ones and the other ones, I haven't used shoe trees at all. And the old brown Chrome Excel ones, I had started using them and then stopped, and they're bagged up now in the closet somewhere. And on a side note, some people poo-poo monk straps, but I like them. But also don't buy anything square toe. for your business casual or business formal outfit. But also suede is a good casual option as far as I'm concerned. He mentions CHUKKA boots, but I'm not going to go into that. But CHUKKA boots are supposed to be part of the rotation, but I haven't got around to wearing them yet. So maybe next week I will wear the CHUKKA boots finally, because I said I was going to shelve these, but I didn't bag them up yet. But I haven't worn them since week 5, which was like one day, I think. Because again, we're not having rainy weather. And then he said he went to Ireland, and I joked, depends on if you go to Dublin or Ireland, where you may need more a galashi thing. I didn't do a very good Irish accent there, right there, but whatever. So that wraps that up for Bewt Talk. We haven't got any questions, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so week 5, jumping right in. Yeah, I guess I might as well start with these since I'm holding them in my lap. So we got the Thursday Captain Captos with the Storm King outsoles. Again, they're not going to show that much wear because I only wore them for like an hour since the previous video. So you can see all the wear and tear just the same as the previous video, pretty much. What little there is overall for a little bit of the wax flesh maybe starting to kind of dry out. That's a decent look. It blurred my face, but you know. But the outsole, barely much pronation evidence showing yet. And the creasing here again, the shoe tree not really affecting, or the lack of shoe tree not really affecting anything beyond that anyway. So there's the side, and here's the right side. And of course, I got these on sale in the newer last that I don't like as much, and I had to get they supposedly true to size, but they're a little bit wide and a little bit sloppy. So I had sent back from their size down recommendation. And of course, these are the CABELL laces, which don't really show that again much wear either. I guess I can show the other one again while I'm on the subject. I didn't really show the tongue and all that on this one. But again, a little bit of indentation. The trademark still more or less in readable condition, unlike the other boot. The President model, which I've had for less time, that it all rubbed off. And of course, there's 2 speed hooks that I usually don't even use the second one. I usually don't bother to lace them all the way up. Maybe these ones I did a little bit more than some of the other ones. There's a bit of kind of sweat stains and stuff, if you can really kind of see in the heel area, the heel counter bit. And that's mostly wearing these with just regular athletic socks, but a thicker athletic sock than like the Hanes or whoever, Jockey or whatever, Target socks. And now it's all blurry. Maybe it will return to normal. Will you return to normal? I don't know. Well, it won't matter. We're looking at boots more than my face. Did that help? Not really. So that's that for those. So going, I guess, straight to the President Brandy, which I did wear again this week, or skipping. I guess we'll go back pedal. Yeah, because I didn't wear those. So President, we'll save President Brandy. And we'll talk about the, oh, there it goes, the whites lace to toe instead. And this time I'm not going to pull out the plastic doohickey and all that, because again, I did wear these for a bit of a decent walk, a pretty long walk actually, just to get the arch support and get a little wear in them. But then I didn't wear them again the next day for whatever reason. I forget which day I wore these. Actually, it was Sunday, which is technically not part of the challenge, as it turns out. So that was a Sunday evening, and I forget where I went or why I was out in these for so long. But I do remember I was wearing them for a while, and I wanted to include them in the video, even though I didn't really wear them in a regular challenge day. Anyway. But again, they don't show that much wear and tear that's new to me because I bought them used. So they already looked all beat up and run down and faded in these spots and stuff. So how they did that, I don't know. They just came that way. And the outsoles, again, not showing hardly any real wear. So, but this kind of thing, you know, can you get water in there and get a worse split and that sort of thing? Is that what they were discussing in the Nick's video? Possibly. But those didn't have the same heel stack, I don't think. So, yada, yada, yada. And again, he was saying that that was an alternate option, that you don't have to get the rubber bonding and all that. So you can find that video if you're really interested, or bring it up if you call and say, some guy 3 years ago was saying something about midsoles, and maybe they'll remember. Who knows? Okay, so, but they still won't have the McKay lock stitch, so there's that. So no shoe trees, talked about that already. Okay, so again, bridging the gap between week 5 and week 6, we have the boot that has been the consistent, constant favorite, because I just chose to wear it like crazy on purpose and try to get my money's worth. Even though, again, I don't like the narrower fit since they've redone the last or something, and I don't know whose foot is exactly shaped like this, and they got scuffed up like immediately on tree branches and junk in the street. They came with these laces that I have to double tie, but they've been mostly cooperative. Nicer than I think the Grant Stone laces was my other complaint on somebody's video. This, again, that's what I'm saying, that logo rubbed off on the socks immediately. Although the heel counter doesn't have as much pronounced like sweat stains. Let's see. There we go. And the right one, it really rumpled. Yeah, it's not going to be able to pick that up still. A lot of staining in there, but the foam kind of rumpled. But I did smash them down quite a bit in the ball of the foot area, but I'm also kind of used to walking in them. So when I switched other boots, it's kind of funky. I don't know what's coming out of here. Yeah, vegetation. All right, stuff to throw away. That's not part of the boot, I hope. Whatever that was. And the outsoles. The outsoles are starting to show a bit of wear in the heel area. The one a little more pronounced than the other. You can see where it's kind of starting to go diagonal there. Again, skipping to week 6, I did wear these a lot on a long walk. Was it Tuesday? I think it was Tuesday. So then the next day I wore the other ones with the arch support. So I'll talk about that in a minute. These ones, again, didn't come with the pull tab like the Hero boots, so I didn't have to remove that. And they do have the eyelets instead of the speed hooks, which, of course, I still prefer most of the time. And, of course, they do get scuffed like crazy there for no good reason. So let's show the other one. And I'll show the backs of them side by side. So you can see the one wore a little bit more than the other one. I think the right one, yeah. My feet wear more or less evenly, but the right one I think my right leg is a little bit longer than my left leg. And the front of the right one really has more damage, although there's some scuffing on the left one still too. So you can see there's a whole bunch of more scars on this one, but the toe of this one started to get some abuse. So you can see the bottom for what it's worth. This doohickey, not totally worn down yet, but in one one spot it's almost done. So how long that's supposed to help make it last, I don't know how long before I need a new heel cap. But I suppose that I won't worry about that till next year. And because, again, it'll be hot for summer, I might not be wearing these that much. And then in autumn, I have the brown ones and the Wolverine ones and the Oliver CABELL ones and the Grant Stone ×3, etc., etc. And so, and you can see the sweat stains or whatever, and where it went all black though, and you can see where the logo really rubbed out in no time. So I don't know what they changed the kind of paint they were using or what's up, something, I don't know. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they're cutting some corners somewhere to keep that price down, but Rosanville keeps insisting that the quality is still the exact same or something. I don't believe him. Whatever. The made in USA ones, I think it's hit or miss. Like I said, Schmidt Boots did a video a few years ago about how the Vanguard boot was basically not any real improvement over this. So I never bought those, so I don't know, because I just assumed. And I think those had the cap toe that I didn't really want anyway. And then I ended up with another pair of cap toe ones because they were on sale in a different color. So there was that. So these, like I said, became kind of the default boots that I wore most of the time in the last 2 weeks. And that's the President in the brandy color, not the whiskey, as I mistakenly said on the first video or whatever when I first got them. So then the bean boots or sneakers and boat shoes. Sorry, I worked them in anyway. Like I said, because the one day I wore the whites and the next day I think I wore these, just to try and get more use out of them. I don't really like taking these on long walks. They're not as no cushion at all like the Converse All-Stars, but they're still not like any real arch support and whatnot. They're just a casual sneaker, not a boot, but and they're not part of the challenge, but I'm showing them anyway because I haven't, worn them. I talked about these more in the last video, so I won't go into it. Again, I wore these I think once or maybe twice, once each week, I think. So same thing as the sneakers. They're just slotted in, but these have a lot more spring to them, a lot more, not pronounced arch support, but actual support as opposed to sneakers. So yeah, I'll be wearing these still going forward and probably a lot next week again if it's going to really jump up in temperature in the Southland and all that. So see how it goes. But yeah, they're a little bit worn, but not any real significant. The heels have a little bit of dirty, what do you call that? Obvious. I didn't show the heels of these, did I? I guess I might as well. Less noticeable, but a little bit more wear again on the right one than the left one. But they don't kill my heels, the sneakers. That's usually where I really start to notice it with, like I said, the Converse especially, is when my heels start to really hurt, even if they still have, even if I've worn more on the ball of the feet, it doesn't like hurt the same way as feeling my heel strike a lot on the asphalt. That's when I know that the sneakers have, kind of run their course, because I can get holes in the ball of the shoe and not even notice sometimes, but when it's really painful. So then finally, the last, we're still at less than half an hour, so yeah, we're right on pace here. So I intentionally threw in the Oak Street finally, even though I told the one guy that I was going to put them in the rotation. Well, they didn't really end up in the rotation until like yesterday, because after I wore the, or actually these aren't the last. My bad. Actually, I wore these for an hour earlier, and so there's but just to throw them in. This is the Response Gear tactical boots, and they will show absolutely no additional wear and tear from the previous episode because I wore them for like an hour. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go on and on about those. Okay. But yeah, so these, after I wore these for a really long walk, my feet did hurt that night a bit. And so the next day I decided to wear these with the arch support that doesn't come with it insert instead of just a regular insole. And that feels funky when I'm walking in them a bit. It takes up enough of the volume that made the boots too loose and sloppy, but then it's still kind of springy in a weird way. And I haven't decided yet if I want to get leather inserts for these that like NEIGH does offer. But in the meantime, yeah, I wore these for a decent walk, and then my feet didn't hurt so much, so hooray. But yeah, they're not showing a lot of wear and tear because, again, if I only wear them, I wear them for a couple hours, not like all day, every day kind of thing. But these are the Oak Street camp shoes or whatever the hell they called them, camp boots or something. But they do show quite a bit where the toe pokes up now, which I don't think would happen as much if I didn't have the inserts in there. But you can see where they're also, if I didn't have the inserts in there, they would be a little bit too long because then my toe would be hitting more like back here somewhere probably than being forced up into here. So they didn't run exactly perfect in the sizing, but I knew from the previous boot that I returned that, you know, going down or whatever, the half a size was definitely going to be too small. And so I think these are 7.5. I don't know. It's pretty worn out. If you can read that, you're doing better than I am. Whatever that says. And I don't know, the box is here somewhere maybe, but I don't know what's printed on the box. I don't remember, but anyway, but they don't have any speed hooks and they're not super high moccasins or anything. They're just a decent camp shoe. And of course, this is the wrong outsole to want to wear if I was going camping, which is why I'm wearing it around casually, to wear that out until I get them resold with some other option. A little more aggressive tread and all that. So here we see the right one really starting to show somewhere, but since it's a wedge sole, it's going to never have a heel stack to interfere with. So when I actually replace this, it will be a little bit more of a mystery. But it won't be anytime soon. Again, just want to get my money's worth or whatever, even though I'm not using them in a main cabin scenario situation or whatever. But also, you know, when was I going to be doing that anyway? And so you got the suede in the tongue instead of the smooth like the sides and all that. And you have the pull tabs that I will never ever use. Just an extra bonus feature. And yeah, this is even less legible than the other one. I have no idea what these numbers say. And I'm not taking the insoles out this time again because I've done it plenty. And of course, I didn't have them in there when I did the initial unboxing, whatever number that was. That would be way too far back to find and all that. Okay, so we're right here at the 29-minute mark. So as always, if you have any questions, you could put them in the comments, or you could have chatted along with me because I did this tonight because there's no hockey and stuff on. So hooray, maybe some people will watch it tonight or tomorrow or later or something. And of course, you can do the buy a coffee or buy me a pizza option here. I activated that feature a few months ago. And as always, the boycott Tinder movement that I didn't exactly invent it or spearhead it or whatever, but I'm all for it. Definitely don't waste your money on dating apps that don't care if you ever find romance or even a date, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, like I said, I'm sorry to be rushing this. now because I don't know if there will be a chapter 8 or not, or 4 really, or 3, however that added up, because the one was the intro and the outro and blah, blah, blah. Episode, again, 328. And, of course, President Brandy Boot was episode 333. Then there was week 2, episode 326, where I definitely talked about these ones because I'm seeing myself in the thumbnail thing. And then I did another episode of the Boycott Tinder, and then I did week 4 was episode 343, 13 days ago. So 2 weeks almost exactly. So there's that. Okay, I'm signing out, and happy Thursday. Where's that?